and he started like punching me like this. Like he avoided my face, but he like started punching me like on the side of the.
Furthermore, he began like punching me like this, like he kept away from my face. Yet he like began punching me like on my head. And I was very much like covering my face. That was one of Diddy's exes, discussing her involvement in the man. However, at that point, she apparently uncovered that she wasn't the only one with that experience. And I saw an image of him and Lori, like a similar precise posture. What do you mean? I mean the very precise represent that he took with Mioke. And he did likewise with Lori. And to put the good to beat all cake, her father appears to have been in the loop. All things considered, Diddy and Lori Harvey, they're warming things up in Italy. Notice her arm is on the rear of his seat. I believe it's really fascinating that Steve Harvey's there, and on days when he's not watching Diddy die with his girl, he's kissing Diddy's ring on live television. See, the thing about Diddy, he didn't stir things up about it. He recently continued to squeeze him. He put forth his very own Tonkash. For this, the recent days, even weeks, has shown to be probably the haziest seasons of media outlets, as terrible news has parted from all points, including a few high-profile VIPs. Some news were only awful, while others are viewed as fringe obtuse anyway. A few big names appear to have reliably fallen into the not exactly human part of this. And the one individual that squeezes into this portrayal is rap leader Shed Diddy Brushes. The rapper, who has previously been involved in a few dim titles, appears to have wound up in one more pickle with one of his exes. Yet this is no customary ex. This is the girl of one more questionable VIP, Lori Harvey. And it appears to be her father could done a few filthy arrangements in the past with Diddy, which thus handled her right by the rapper's side, obviously. I know how this entire point may be hard for many individuals to discuss. Yet did you truly think Diddy getting with somebody who had quite recently jumped out of a relationship with his own child was typical? I figure the vast majority would hail that as lovely unusual. Well, it appears to be the clarification we've all been looking out for, that exceptionally odd family trait change could have at long last come to our doorstep, as word on the road is saying that Lori could have turned into Diddy's Matt. I mean, she's totally flawless and has been within excess of a small bunch of fruitful individuals. Yet it appears Diddy could have not been her best option of an accomplice, as their association appears to have come from a position of obligation installment. Not lures her dad see around a little while back, perhaps of the most impressive individual in the business, who was available during the times of Diddy's ascent to popularity and fortune, Suji Knight. Talked about how Diddy appears to have had specific individuals in the business tidy up after him each time he makes a wreck, and the individual Knight named was Lori's father, Steve Harvey. The previous death row record chief didn't simply name Harvey as potentially being Diddy's task kid. Yet he likewise apparently dropped documentation interfacing Diddy's media cleanups to Steve Harvey. Now, how could this fruitful VIP have disparaged himself to the point that he's committed to tidy up after one more person, while having watched a similar person, who I could add as nearer in age to Steve, date his little girl? I can't actually call myself an investigator, yet as per some appearing to be self-acclaimed investigators via virtual entertainment, it appears Steve may be powerless to resist Diddy, and in the most terrible manner conceivable. So how could he get to that position? And precisely which job has Lori been playing? Stay tuned as we plunge into the profound end on this one, like out-and-out stories. I've dated a dad and child. Before you'll concur with me that Steve Harvey is effectively perhaps of the best performer ever, right? Well, regardless of whether you're in uncertainty about it, the man has a history of effective programs and parody visits. And I could go on and on about his book. Deals. The fact is that Harvey is a power like none the business has found in years. And that ought to be sufficient to exclude him from being required to kiss the ring of different performers. Yet it appears Diddy may be the exemption for everything in the business, as per ongoing reports. It appears Steve may be taking requests from the awful kid president to the point that even his own relatives aren't untouchable. That is correct, the cases aren't simply attached to Steve. They're likewise attached to his girl, you see throughout the long term. There have been a few cases that Steve Harvey could have been Diddy's cohorts anyway. It appears to be those stories were something beyond claims as Diddy's long-term rival Sub-Knight as of late made a few disclosures about it in the midst of the Tupac adventure. Sub-Knight dropped stunners about Steve Harvey, testing the story of adoration that the VIP have professed to have for the famous rapper Knight, portrayed Harvey not nonchalantly spending time with Diddy, transforming it into a side gig, yet additionally safeguarding somebody broadly thought to be connected, the end of the everyone's eyes on me craftsman, on the off chance that you love punk. Such a lot of how you with the everyone say got something to do with the first get down it ended up leaving in New York. Then the subsequent one does she need to raise the source grant, adding to the curve story. Knight uncovered Harvey for affronting Tupac's memory by excusing the very issue that impacted his life, as well as the existences of numerous others, the infamous East Coast-West Coast hamburger, while others passed on from the brutality of the meat at the time, including Biggie Smalls. Steve appears to have figured out how to trick the world into believing Diddy's hands are immaculate. All things considered, I didn't say they aren't. Nevertheless, I understand what you're thinking. At any rate, tidying up his wreck appears to have been just where Steve's occupation for the business magnate started. It appears he could have been expected to do a smidgen more of valid example, giving his own girl to Diddy. What's more, is that Lori wasn't even with Diddy for the reasons they had the world reasoning 2 or 3 months prior. The model and business visionary plumped down with E! News, have Adrienne Balan in a video interview delivered as of late, and said she frequently hears claims that she is involved with somebody whom she hasn't even met face to face. Lori, who on a couple of events was spotted with the awful Kid Honcho, demanded that she never dated the performer, a disclosure that has now left fans contemplating whether that was for sure an affirmation that Diddy may not be who we as a whole suspected he was anyway. That was not the story in the media. Then, as per reports, tales started coursing that Lori had begun dating Sean Diddy Brushes. In July 2019, the pair were imagined together various times in Italy, Mexico, New York City, and Atlanta during their supposed sentiment during one of their excursions. Lori was spotted with her arm around Diddy during a supper with Lori's stepfather, Steve Harvey. Diddy's child, Christian Combs, even gave a knowledge into their relationship during an honorary pathway appearance, saying they are great, there being private time that depends on them. While the pair never openly talked about their relationship, individuals near them referenced that they could have just been a throw instead of being an all-out couple. Him and Lori had a good time. Hurley at Diddy is as yet recuperating and zeroing in on himself. Right presently clears up our insider. He isn't prepared for being in a drawn-out serious relationship and is zeroing in on his children at this moment anyway. It appears to be that could have quite recently been all a cover-up for Diddy's supposed other tendencies. As fans began to bring up that Diddy involved Lori for an unexpected reason in comparison to the majority of us, think one client tweeted, "You all truly think Cassie set a request and is a model when I simply accept she was Diddy's concealment, 'cause he's gay, she's out of her agreement." And presently Lori Harvey up next discussing Cassie. It appears to be that could have been one more mess up that Steve needed to tidy up for Diddy last week. The titles ejected with the unstable fight in court among Diddy and Cassie, revealing a dim part of monstrous wrongdoings affirmed against the business tycoon. The claim charges a few occurrences of misuse carried out by Diddy, including our battery and constraints acts with male slaverers in the recording. Cassie portrays the magnate top of her previous mark and afterward significant other as a coursebook abating her into what she previously saw as a paternal defensive relationship, just to end up in an inconsistent and fierce relationship. Diddy's grasp on Cassie, according to her cases, was kept up with through a progression of chilling, terrorizing strategies. This vile tool compartment supposedly included exploding up a man's vehicle, the unpropitious demonstration of hanging a companion unsafely north of a 17-key floor gallery, and the upsetting solicitation for Cassie to convey Diddy's firearm in her handbag, the trepidation that announcing these occurrences to the police would just act as one more reason for Diddy to cause hurt kept her quiet a chilling account, unfurled a story of influence elements and control that shook the underpinnings of their relationship. Diddy accordingly passionately denied the upsetting charges, making way for a legitimate confrontation that would unwind reality behind the titles. Cassie Miss Cassandra Ventura was held somewhere around